In this video, I'll walk you through how to get a human design chart if you don't know your time of birth or the time of birth of the person that you're trying to look up. Now, this is going to be useful if you are totally new to human design. I'm going to make it simple enough that you can follow along, even if you know nothing about the system. All you've been told is if you want to learn about your human design, you have to have your birth chart, and you're in the position that you really do not know your exact time of birth. So this video is also going to be helpful for people who have a keen interest in human design as a hobby, and you're trying to look up the charts of other people that you know, friends, family members, colleagues. It might be anybody who you kind of have an interest in better understanding or improving your relationship with. It's also going to be helpful for you if you are somebody who is integrating human design into your work with other people, and you have a client or somebody that you're working with in some capacity who absolutely does not know their exact time of birth. And it's the first time that you've had to look up a chart where you don't know a time of birth and you're not sure what to do about it. So this is going to be like a mini masterclass. So this is going to be helpful for anybody who doesn't already know how to tackle that time of birth problem when looking up a human design chart. Now, hopefully you already have some understanding that just guessing your time of birth is not okay. And what's going to become obvious as I walk through some examples is just how much the chart can change over one calendar day. So you'll see some examples and see what to do about it. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Carolyn Southwell. I have been playing with human design for 10 years. And in that time, I have definitely had to look up lots of charts without knowing a time of birth. So I'm well placed to be able to walk you through that process now. Let's do it. The website we're going to use today is the one that I use with my clients and the one that I choose to be affiliated with. You'll see my link here and I'll put the text up on the screen. And if you want to say thanks in advance for all the work that went into making this video, then click the link at the very top of the video description that's directly below me here, or you can type the URL in that I've got highlighted there and I'll put the text on screen in big letters. And just note that it's case sensitive, so type it in exactly there, or just click on the link at the top of the video description. The website we're using is called Genetic Matrix, and while there are options for paid features through the site, the free chart is going to be more than enough to get you started. Now, if you're totally new to Genetic Matrix, let's do one example together so you can become familiar with the format. So once you've popped in that URL or looked up Genetic Matrix, the website, find this green button and click on Create Free Chart. And then I'm going to call you Amazing Person. You can put in any name that you wish that you want to have listed on your human design chart. Whatever name you choose to put on there will not change the accuracy of the chart. Obviously, when children are born, they don't always have a name, but that doesn't change their energetic makeup. So you can put in whatever name makes sense for you there. Then put in the birth date. Pay attention to the format that they've got listed there. So we're going to put in this example of the 17th of February, 1977, and you can click the calendar icon to check that you've put the date in correctly. So I've got the date that I'm looking for here, and then you can put in the time. Now, maybe you heard a story from a family member that you were born around 9 o'clock in the morning. So maybe that's the guess that you've heard. That's all you've ever heard. So you're going to put that in. And I will run through in the slides in a moment an exact example of like what to do to track it over the whole day. But we're just doing one example here so you can see the format because you're going to do this process multiple times. Putting in 9 a.m. And then for the country, there's a drop-down list. We're going to say this person, amazing person, was born in Australia and in a little tiny suburb outside of the city of Melbourne. Now, this system is not looking for an exact pinpoint location, which means if the place that you were born was anything smaller than a pretty major hub, then please put in the nearest city in the same time zone. So Melbourne, it is in the state of Victoria, so we're going to choose that. And then it will automatically calculate it into UTC, Universal Time Coordinated. You don't need to worry about that. Just make sure you've got the correct info up the top and then hit create. Ta-da! You have a chart. Of course, you don't know exactly what time you were born, but that's the process you're going to go through. You're going to hit save PDF, or you can do a screenshot, whatever you'd prefer. And then as you go through and test multiple times, you're going to hit reset chart and you're going to keep changing that time. So I'm going to show you what that looks like now. To get anything useful out of human design, you have to know your type, strategy, and inner authority. Now, if you're brand new to human design, you won't know this yet, but strategy is linked to type. So as long as you can find type, you will automatically have your strategy. And on these charts on Genetic Matrix, inner authority is written right next to type. So you'll see that in a minute. So you'll see I've put in the very first minute of the day, and that's what you're going to do if you have no idea what time you or the other person that you're looking up was born. Very first minute of the day, pop the details in as I showed you on the website live, and then collect that chart. Now, in this example, I'm going to show you what happens as we move through one calendar day and how much it can change. At the first minute of this day, this person is an emotional projector, as I've got highlighted here. So the next thing I do is put in about 6 hours later. We're just splitting the day into pieces, right? You can see the timestamp up the top there, and then you can see that this person is still an emotional projector. Let's keep going. Ooh, look at that. We got to midday and suddenly this person is an emotional manifesting generator. They are very, very different beings if you're new to human design, but I've also put stars here. These things have also changed in the process, okay? So while the major things of type and therefore strategy have changed, there are also more nuanced parts of the chart that have changed as well. So let's keep going through the rest of the calendar day and see what happens to this person's chart. So 6 hours later, still an emotional manifesting generator. And the last minute of the day, still an emotional manifesting generator, but their channels have changed. So the major change happened between 6 a.m. and noon on this calendar day. And maybe that will happen for you. Now, you might be lucky. You might be lucky that your type and strategy and maybe even inner authority stay the same on your day of birth, in which case it's wonderful. So if you can move through these and it doesn't change, it would be good to split it up and check a little bit more. But if it doesn't change, home free, that's fabulous. Often something fairly significant will change in the chart. So in this case, it was between 6 a.m. and noon. So let's get curious and look up halfway in between. Let's look at a chart for 9 a.m. So at 9 a.m., this person is still an emotional manifesting generator, right? So closer to what we had for the midday chart. There are some differences again to the midday chart in that the profile, the incarnation cross, and the channels have changed, as you can see with the stars there. So let's narrow it down some more. Let's check halfway through that time again. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to go halfway through that time. In this case, it would be 7:30 a.m. Doesn't need to be a problem. Just stay curious. So at 7:30 a.m., this person is an emotional projector. Again, projectors and manifesting generators are very different creatures. Hey, if you're finding this video useful, can you give it a thumbs up? That'll help more people find this content and be able to benefit from this information about what to do if you don't know your time of birth. Thanks so much. So now we know that the biggest change to the chart happened between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. on that particular day. And you're going to look at that for yourself. Where is the biggest change in the chart on that calendar day? Either the day you were born or somebody else was born. Now you can keep narrowing that time down. I just keep going half and half and half until I can narrow it right down. And/or you can go hunting for some more information about the exact time of birth. Now, if it's your chart that you're looking up, have you exhausted all possible sources of info? As in, have you dug up your birth certificate? Have you looked for any records from the hospital you were born in, if you were, or any other paperwork whatsoever, any sort of identification cards or anything at all, any paperwork that might say it? And have you got any stories from older family members, parents, aunts, uncles? It depends on how old you are, of course. But are there any stories? Sometimes a story like, we were just sitting down to have dinner. Well, that narrows it down significantly. Or your dad was about to leave for work. That will also narrow it down. The more you can narrow it down, the easier this process will be to get a more accurate chart. So I highly recommend making sure that you have exhausted all possible sources of information, because that is going to be much easier than trying to understand enough about human design that you can just figure out through human design knowledge what is the correct chart. That takes quite a lot of knowledge, and it can be quite challenging in the very beginning if you're new to human design. And if you really can't find an accurate time of birth, as in you've really exhausted all the options, maybe your parents are no longer with us, maybe the hospital you were born in is closed, maybe you were born during a war, you might have been one of many, many children, or there could be any other totally reasonable reason. And if this is still the very beginning of your journey with human design and you have no way at all whatsoever of ever knowing your exact time of birth, then start learning about only the things that do not change over the course of your birthday. My strongest suggestion is that you see if you can figure out just your type and its corresponding strategy and your inner authority, because these alone can help you radically improve your life. And if it's somebody else's chart that you're looking up, either because you're doing the work professionally or you're doing it just as a hobby, just as an interest, how well do you know the gates? Because if you have a basic understanding of how each gate looks and feels and sounds, or how it behaves out in the real world, out in the wild, then you can use this to narrow down the most likely chart. Remember, of course, none of this is guaranteed, but if you can get a more likely chart, then you can use that as a really useful starting point to better understand your loved one or to better serve your client. Remember, to get anything useful out of human design for yourself or for another person, you have to know the correct type, strategy, and ideally inner authority. If you can get these nailed down, then you have enough information to really start to transform your own life or the life of whoever you might be supporting. And if you're ready for more details, we'll keep going. And/or if you already know a fair bit about human design, then look at the charts you've already created. Hopefully you've gone through and done lots of timestamps across that calendar day. See which details change over that time period that you worked out for you or for the other person, and keep looking up different charts until you can see all the possible options. Then use your knowledge of the profiles, the gates, and the channels to narrow down the most likely chart. So assuming that you're new to human design or new-ish, and that you've figured out your type or the type of the person whose chart you are looking up, and you want to get started learning more about you, then check out the free playlists I've made for each human design type. This will also be useful if you have been looking up the charts of other people and maybe you know your type well, but you don't know these other people's type very well at all. So below this video, in the bottom left corner, you'll see this little icon, this photo, and you'll see the beginning of my name, depending on which device you're watching this video on. If you just click on that photo of me, it's going to take you to my YouTube channel. And from here, you can either click on playlists or you can scroll down. There's lots of stuff on there, and just go to the playlists and pick your human design type, and you can watch a whole series of free videos to better understand yourself. And if you know anybody else who has been struggling to work out how do I get an accurate human design chart if I don't know my time of birth, maybe share this video with them. The more people we can share this with, the more we make sure people have accurate charts or have an understanding of how to work with the system when they don't know their time of birth. And if there was anything in this mini masterclass that was unclear, so whether you're a brand newbie or you're a hobbyist or you're using human design to support clients in a paid capacity, if there was anything that's unclear, can you put it in the comments? Tell me, which category you fit into, so I make sure that I answer at an appropriate level of knowledge, and tell me what it was that wasn't clear, because I want to make sure that this resource is as useful as possible.